Alright folks, here's the big audition video involving the characters of the Megaman Zero saga. There's a lot of them. Even more than I'm going to go into in this video because many of them are minor characters, some that even don't have names. The way this is going to work, I'm starting with the main characters in the Resistance first, then Neo Arcadia's bosses, then the four Guardians, and finally X himself. The reason that I'm doing this is closer to the end, there's going to be more spoilers, so if you really don't want to be spoiled, there's going to be a certain point in the video where I tell you to stop. Before any auditions start, if you've got any questions about the technical aspects of voice acting, or you need any advice on warm-up exercises or getting in character, I've also uploaded a video discussing the basics which I advise you know before auditioning. It'll help your chances of getting cast. So with that, let's get started with the Resistance. The main character in the Resistance besides CL is Cerveau. He's a helpful scientist Reploid that invents quite a few of the extra weapons that Zero can use. While Cerveau is obviously brilliant, his intelligence is tempered by his practicality. He's almost always concerned over the well-beings of Zero and CL, and knows that without them, the Resistance is lost. Another important figure is Alouette, a young little girl Reploid who loves cyber elves, which are the creatures that, when raised, upgrade and enhance some of Zero's abilities at the cost of their own lives. She's essentially been raised by CL and looks up to her as a big sister. This devotion is seen mainly in the stuffed doll that she carries around, which CL made for her. She's very polite and well-mannered to Zero, provided that he doesn't go out of his way to be unkind to her, which you can do in the game, but I won't be doing in this. Dande is a Reploid soldier who hangs around the Resistance base and provides moral support to the cause of Zero and CL. He's very passionate about that cause, and he even sees the humble Resistance base as more of a desirable place to live than the oppression of Neo Arcadia. Hybo is a fat Reploid who doesn't care too much about Zero's reputation, and he's more concerned about being given some food to munch on. But over the course of the game, he becomes inspired by Zero's mission success and he cheers him on from the sidelines. Milan is a Reploid who leads CL to the lab where Zero's body is found at the very start, but he's shot down by some Pantheons who are in pursuit. There's also Andrew, an elderly Reploid who loves to talk about the good old days. He'll often tell Zero about his history with a variety of careers that he's had, and he'll reward him if he's patient enough to listen to his long-winded history. And believe me, it's very long-winded. And lastly, we have Passy, who is a cyber elf that sacrifices herself at the start of the game to resurrect Zero. She's obviously very close to CL, who at first doesn't want to use Passy's power at the cost of the elf's life. Alright, that about does it for the Resistance characters. Now the fun part! The bosses who represent Neo Arcadia. None of these characters have a particularly defined personality beyond a couple of features, so these are the ones that you should really try to have fun with and make your own. Let's start off with Aztec Falcon. He's the steed of Sage Harpuya, who is one of the four Guardians. While he's very loyal to his master, he was sent to man the disposal facility which is killing off the innocent Reploids. He has absolutely no regard for their lives whatsoever and refers to them as garbage that he's disposing of. Maha Ganesharif is an elephant Reploid with reference to the Indian culture and is obviously named after their elephant god Ganesha. He stores a large amount of valuable data, and unlike all of the other bosses, he seems to just be merely doing his job and he bears no ill will towards Zero before they fight. Anubis Necromancis III is a necromancer boss who's obviously based on Egyptian culture. He's obsessed with death and summons Pantheon zombies during the encounters with him. Blizzak Stagroth is a gigantic ice-themed deer who is quite prideful in his own abilities. He's a bit condescending towards Zero and is surprised at the progress that he's made despite being an outdated Reploid. Hanu Machine is a monkey Reploid whose attacks combine illusory clones and his really big staff. Like Blizzak, Hanu Machine considers Zero to be outdated garbage and wishes to prove himself to his master, Phantom of the Four Guardians. Lastly, we have Herculeus Encordus, who is a Hercules beetle with the powers of lightning, and is one of the last lines of defense in the finale at Neo Arcadia. He takes his status as a Knight of X and Harpuya very seriously, and when Zero rematches him, his pride is very hurt at having been defeated once in the past. That's it for the one-off bosses. Now it's time to go into much more major characters, the four Guardian Generals of X. Each of them were created with a portion of the infinite potential that X has, with elements and abilities based on some of what X can learn in his games. First we have Fighting Fefnir. Fefnir is the Guardian representing fire and ground combat, and leads the Scorched Earth Squadron of Neo Arcadia. Pardon the pun, but he's clearly the most hot-headed of the four Guardians, and despises being told to stand down. He's also obsessed with surpassing Zero, kind of the same complex that Vegeta had with Goku in the Dragon Ball series, and he hates resorting to any kind of trickery to achieve his goals. Secondly, we have Fairy Leviathan. Leviathan represents water and ice and leads the Deep Sea Squadron of Neo Arcadia. Since Leviathan is the only female of the four Guardians, she clearly has something to prove to X and to herself. If Fefnir is the muscle of the four Guardians, Leviathan would be the flirtatious one, as she frequently teases Zero during their encounters in the series. Her fighting style would be considered more playful and dance-like than the brute force that Fefnir brings to the table. Third of the four is Hidden Phantom. Phantom represents stealth and illusions, and he leads the Cunning Shadow Squadron of Neo Arcadia, which specializes in intelligence and sabotage. Phantom is the softest spoken of the four Guardians, and is very deliberate, almost poetic in the things that he says to Zero. Of the four Guardians, it can be argued that Phantom is the most loyal to X, as he's willing to sacrifice his own life if it means destroying Zero before he reaches X. Lastly is Sage Harpuya, commander of the Strong Air Battalion of Neo Arcadia, and he represents the elements of wind and lightning. Of the four generals, Harpuya is easily the most popular and well-developed of them, and as a character he evolves greatly over the course of the series. At first he starts out a loyal supporter of X who seeks to wipe out Zero and the Resistance in the name of humanity and Neo Arcadia. But after his defeat in the first game, command of Neo Arcadia falls to him, and in the process his pride becomes very tempered. Harpuya over the course of the story evolves as a character and grows similar to the original hero that X was. At last, I'm going to go into the character of X himself. If you're only interested in watching the dub and not auditioning for the role of X, please stop the video, because spoilers are ahead. You've been warned. The actor who plays X is going to need to be very versatile, because they're going to be playing both the role of a hero and the main villain of the first game. This is because the X that has ordered the disposal of the innocent Reploids is a copy of the original, created by CL after X disappeared and leadership needed to be maintained. Unfortunately, since Copy X did not have any of the memories or experiences that helped shape X and make him who he is, he merely maintained one directive, and that was to protect humanity. That lack of experience in understanding the value of life that X had leads Copy X to take a very different path from his predecessor. Copy X is almost fanatical in his ideals to create a human paradise. When Neo Arcadia faces an energy crisis, Copy X reasons that the only way to resolve it is to indiscriminately kill some of the less useful Reploids who require that power. He doesn't see any flaw in his actions, and says to Zero that he's surpassed him and his original self, because he has found a solution to achieve that paradise. While CL created him, she resolves herself to the fact that it was a mistake, and hopes that Zero will destroy the tyrant. But a wild card is found over the course of the story, and that is the disembodied soul of the original Megaman X, who aids Zero over the course of the game before revealing himself in the finale. X disappeared from Neo Arcadia for reasons that are explained later in the series, but one of those reasons is that he feared he was dangerously close to going Maverick and down the path that his copy eventually went. He had fought for so long protecting humans and Reploids that, like Solid Snake from Metal Gear Solid, he found that he just didn't care anymore. He didn't care about the Mavericks he had gunned down in the name of justice, and he didn't care about the humans he was sworn to protect. So with those words to Zero, he leaves their fate in the hands of his longtime friend and partner, and supports him when he can over the course of the series despite his spirit form. And with that, we finally have all of the notable characters in the first game of Mega Man Zero. Did I say a mouthful or what? Holy crap. There's going to be a video like this for every game in the series, so once the first game is going full bore, auditions will open up for the roles in the second game, and so on and so forth, until this epic story is finally completed. If any of these characters interest you, there's a link in the description below for the entire script of the first game, and if you have any extra questions, I'd be glad to answer them in the comments below. If I've answered all of your questions, check out the link to the script and find out which lines you think would be best to show off your ability in the role of that character, and make an audition video with at least 3 takes of the lines of each character you plan to audition for. Once the video is up, either send the video to me via private message on YouTube or notify me in the comments below that you've auditioned, and I'll check the video out on your channel from there. Alright, I think that about does it. Thanks to all of you who are interested in auditioning, or those of you who are just interested in watching and enjoying it. The auditions officially start tomorrow, the 17th, and last through June 5th, so get those lines in. After castings close, I'll make my decision and notify you if you've been chosen, and from there, we can get cracking on the real thing. Have a good day, everybody.